we are at the movies with my friend. Hi, Tim Sika. How are you?
Hi, Kim. Boy, I'm wondering who gets to keep the gold from
I
that
know.
volcano. Man, give me a piece of that, please. That'd be
I
nice.
think it'd be a little hard to collect it, but
Yeah,
it feels like I should stand out there with a dish or something and try to collect the gold flakes.
really, really,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, the first movie that you are going to review for us is Challengers, which is this sports relationship drama with Zendaya, right?
Yeah. Have you seen any of the trailers for this movie?
No, I just heard Michael Snyder talk a little bit about it, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Oh, I'm interested in knowing what he did. He like it?
He did. He thought Zendaya was amazing.
Okay, well, okay, all
Uh
right, okay.
oh.
I should probably start off by saying that I'm not the biggest Luca Guadagnino fan. He's the director of this movie.
Right.
I loathed Bones and All. I was in the minority over Call Me by Your Name, which I found appalling for a number of reasons, which people are tired of hearing me go on and on about. So I went into it with that bias. So I think you're going to hear a biased review. But yeah, you mentioned it. The movie stars and was produced by Zendaya, and it co-stars Mike Feist, he played Riff in West Side Story and Steven
Hmm.
Spielberg's West Side Story, and Josh O'Connor, who was in La Chimera, which we recently reviewed on the after party. Anyway, it's a sweat and sex and sports relationship drama, and calling it a relationship drama is giving it way more credit than I think it actually deserves. And in it, Zendaya plays, and she is good. I agree with Michael on that. She's
Yeah.
great. She's always great. But she plays this once famous tennis player who suffers an injury, and so she becomes a coach, right? Because she can't play anymore. And in various ways, she gets involved with best friends Mike Feist and Josh O'Connor, who are also tennis players. And I think the way they're portrayed in this movie, closet homosexuals.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the trailer makes you think it's about something else, and and what this movie claims to be about on its surface, I think it misrepresents what it's really about. I mean, that was my take on it. I mean, maybe I was just I misread the trailer, but I thought it was going to be this hot and heavy, menage a trois. And
Right.
it's really, I mean, it's more about these guys and their friendship, and there's all this like subtle homoeroticism, which I just thought was kind of creepy. Not because I find homoeroticism offensive, but it was because of the way it was portrayed. It's almost like the filmmakers wanted to have it both ways. I mean, you see male nudity in this, you don't see any female nudity in this. So that's weird.
Interesting.
And anyway, I just found this movie characteristically sleazy. I found it prurient. I found it tawdry. I found it cheap.
Oh.
I thought it was puerile in its depiction of these three characters. The dialogue would be better suited to be coming out of the mouths of junior high school students than actual adults. For
Wow.
one, I mean, I had all kinds of issues with this movie, but I think I made my point. It also has this underlying pervy feel to it. I don't know.
So
Here, here,
I thought it
yeah.
was about them fighting over her.
I didn't get that. I
Okay.
mean, that's sort of like the excuse that was being used to like
Oh,
really. I don't know. I just thought it was. I don't know. It was weird. I think, well, if you love sports and sweat and sex movies, I mean, although neither one of those is sufficiently served here,
hmm,
you might want to check it out. But and maybe I don't know. I just have all these personal issues with Luca Guadagnino's movies. I don't think he's being on the up and up with film goers. But anyway, I didn't care for it. I thought it was, yeah.
okay.
There was all. It was also there was to further annoy me. I know I'm pounding
No,
it,
please.
beating a dead horse.
Bring it
The
all.
way the way it was filmed, the music scoring, and the silly choral passages, the coded dialogue, the self-conscious stylization, it was so self-satisfyingly rendered, and it took itself so seriously that it's not even good camp. I think like Joe
Mm.
Esterhaus, who wrote Showgirls, should have directed this. He should have had his hand in directing this. I probably would have liked it more, but I don't know. Yeah. Anyway,
No, it's a no-go.
we'll start off by being negative and we'll end on positive this week.
Okay,
How's
I
that?
like it.
Okay.
Let's move to this one. This is Boy Kills World.
Yeah, Kim, as evidenced by the John Wick movies and the recent Monkey Man movie and the remake of Roadhouse, these action movies are going totally off the rails
Yeah.
in terms of them having to outdo their predecessors in the way of breaking bones and smashing heads and just being grotesquely violent. So this is one of those movies. Bill Skarsgård of the Skarsgård acting family,
Mm-hmm.
father Stellan, older brother is Alexander, plays the boy of the title. He plays a deaf mute. He's spiritually trained by this shaman who vows revenge on this fascist family running the country in which he resides. This is also a dystopian futuristic drama, a totalitarian hellhole, as it's described in the movie. He vows revenge on this totalitarian family, this government that this family runs, who murdered his sister and mother in one of their like killing sprees,
Sure.
where they go out and kill people who don't agree with what they're doing. So it's a revenge story. It's a tale of vengeance. So you kind of know what you're going to be in for, right? Which is a lot of gore, a lot of grossness, a lot of martial arts
Mm.
fighting, where characters get so bashed around and banged about that in real life, after the third hit to the head, their body would go into total shock. And if the blow didn't do it, their body going into shock would, and of course they would die right on the spot. But not these characters, not these people, not in these kinds of movies. So it's violence, violence, violence.
Mm-hmm.
It's fighting, fighting, fighting. And I never even thought that a cheese grater could be so effective in offing your enemies.
Oh God,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So it's loud, it's crass, it's a little cheesy because it's got this bargain basement sounding narration. It's got a techno score, rock score, video game violence. I should also mention that it's a comedy, which is kind of funny. There's a Hunger Games kind of Squid Game feel to it too. It's stylish. The script's not bad. It's morally complicated. It's a crazy tongue-in-cheek nutball of a movie. Not something I would want to make a steady diet of, but for action fans who love super violent movies with the bloodiest of climaxes, Boy Kills World is definitely your catnip, I would say. And I actually kind of liked it. Although I'm sort of getting my fill of these movies. It's sort of like I want to break. It's like having superhero fatigue, only they are making so many of these violent movies that it's almost like you become desensitized. I'm becoming desensitized, and I don't want a steady diet of them. But objectively, I thought it delivered. I thought it was a good movie.
Okay. Hundreds of beavers. You got me with the name.
Yeah, I'm late to the party on this movie, but I recently caught up with it. It reminds me again, man, how utterly and unabashedly creative movies can be when there seems to be a record of movies that never being made than ever before. And you would think that everything's just going to be a retread. No, not this movie reminds me that you can still be creative even though there's gazillions of movies being made today. And it's a weird and funny and endlessly inventive movie, Hundreds of Beavers. It's in black and white. It's a combination of live action and animation, and is in effect a silent movie. It's got lots of music and sound effects, of course, but there's no dialogue, virtually no dialogue. And the film's story is totally conveyed through its visual images. And again, it's another one of those movies being made today that, because it gets harder and harder to describe some of these movies, it makes you wonder if that could mean that these movies are getting better or they're getting worse. But in the case of Hundreds of Beavers, I would say better. The plot is that this Applejack maker, who, in order to win the hand of this woman he's very keen on, in exchange for her hand in marriage, he has to provide this woman's father, who is a fur trapper, with hundreds of beavers.
Okay.
So, and yeah, that's a simplified version of the plot. So it's wonderfully funny. It's creative. It's inventive. It reminds me of the Warner Brothers Looney Tunes. It has that kind of wacky energy and was no doubt influenced by those cartoons. I suspect the filmmakers were also big fans of the classic Buster Keaton silent movies. There's a quality about it too that reminded me of the early Walt Disney Alice in Wonderland cartoon experiments with live action and animation, and the Mickey Mouse cartoons too, like Steamboat Willie. That's what it kind of looks like, those movies. The visual gags are just technically extraordinary. They keep topping each other. There's this
Wow.
chase sequence that you just go, my God, who could even conceive of this? It's so astonishing, and the whole movie is just dazzling and fun, and it's very different. I defy anybody who can tell me what movie they've seen recently that Hundreds of Beavers is even remotely like. So yeah,
This is
I
not what I would expect you to say about this movie, so that's cool.
I didn't even know what to expect, but I had heard that critics were going kind of gonzo over it, which always is like usually
Yeah.
like a red flag. That means I'm either going to agree or violently disagree. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the agreement camp. I just think it's I thought I just highly and very enthusiastically recommend it. It's really a lot of fun, and it's one of those movies that gives you energy. You're watching it, you feel so good when it's over because it's so much fun. So yeah,
Is it kid friendly?
yes. Well,
Okay.
there's some raciness, with the with the woman that he's kind of like, I don't want to say lusting over, although he kind of is, but the woman that he's really keen on. I mean, there's some
Yeah.
flirtation and stuff, which I don't know if would be appropriate for little kids, but you know, it again, that's a hard question for me to ask because I would let my kids pretty much watch anything that they were interested in. So I'm real liberal that way. But anyway, I don't know. It's up to the parent. I always say it's up to you. This is what it's about. You judge it. You did make the decision for your kids. So
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
This is an interesting title. How to explain your mental illness to Stanley Kubrick.
I yes, yeah. Well, that's what it is. I should qualify this a bit too and say that this movie may explain more than any other and in clear detail of what my personal taste in films is like. This is an essay film, Kim. It's written, produced, directed, and stars indie filmmaker Philip Yusuf Brubaker. And in a way, it's a documentary because it's documentary-like in some ways, but it's really more of what they call an essay film. And by essay film, I mean a movie that, well, in my opinion anyway, does more ruminating and contemplating and speculating about the subject or the subject in question as opposed to its documentation of facts per se,
Sure.
and a movie that makes you look at its subject or themes or its theses in a different way. So in a way, essay films are like conversation starters. So okay, so the conceit here, I hope I can explain this because it's kind of meta in How to Explain Your Mental Illness to Stanley Kubrick, is that the director of the film, Phil Brubaker, who directed it, and another actor playing director Stanley Kubrick, right, are having a conversation wherein the director of this film, the real director of this film, Phil Brubaker, is showing Kubrick, as portrayed by this actor, scenes from movies that mean something to him, like Goodfellas and Close Encounters of the Third Kind and One Flew
Mm-hmm.
Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with the computer from 2001: A Space Odyssey, HAL 9000, looking on. Trying to,
Weird.
yeah, very weird, trying to explain his mental illness to Stanley Kubrick and taking the director to task for misrepresenting the notion of mental illness as much of it is the way it's portrayed in Kubrick films. And very interesting side note here. This is either going to make people want to see this or it's going to make them want to run away from it. The
Mm.
director actually made this film while experiencing some sort of psychotic break.
Oh,
Really.
wow.
I know. And I'm sure he won't mind me saying that because I think he said it in interviews.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if moviegoers who are unfamiliar with Kubrick movies, the director of 2001 and The Shining and Clockwork Orange,
Mm-hmm.
among others, I don't know if they would enjoy this as much as I loved it because I'm a Kubrick fanatic. And but as an experimental film that not only celebrates the movies of Kubrick, but makes you look at mental illness in a way in which you may not have ever looked at it before. I'm unsure how it would go over with that audience, those unfamiliar with Kubrick films. But this audience of one, and Kubrick self-describes Kubrick fanatic,
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was great. And I think it's bold. I think it's brave because it's so personal. It's a naked film in the sense that
Mm.
the director really bears all.
Yeah.
I just think it's brilliant, and I'm talking about it today, Kim, because I want to alert watchers. It's not easily seen, this film, But I want to alert watchers and listeners of the after party that it will be getting this special screening at the Little Roxy Theater in San Francisco on Saturday. That's tomorrow, April 27th at 1:20 p.m. The director, Philip Brubaker, will be there in person. He's going to participate in a post-screening Q&A moderated by Bay Area filmmaker Jonathan Kiefer. And you just have to see this film, folks. Fans of Stanley Kubrick and intelligent and unique and original movies, it's a must-see. I found it sheer magic, this movie. And yes, it's a serious movie because it deals with mental illness, but it's also very funny. It has a wonderful sense of humor about itself. I loved it. So there you go. There you
You
go.
said Little Roxy Theater tomorrow, Saturday, April 27th. At what time?
1:20 p.m. And you can go get tickets by going on roxytheater.com, and it's real simple. You make a couple of clicks, not quicks, clicks, and you can get tickets. And yeah, seeing it on the big screen too is an experience, and it's a
Okay.
rare experience because it hit the festival circuit, I'm told, a little while back, but it's not been widely seen. So, San Francisco film goers, now's your chance to see it on the big screen. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Next up, we have, and the last movie of the day, Baby Reindeer. That's a
Well,
weird.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
thinking this would be an animated film, but then I saw the picture and I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, Michael Snyder is sort of inspiring me to go beyond films and maybe try a little TV. This is so hence this. But I also, a friend had told me about this. So this is a Netflix drama series. And staying on the topic of mental illness here, holy friggin' cow. This new Netflix drama series, Baby Reindeer, talk about turning your insides inside out. This is a riveting new show, and it's easily binged. That was the other thing that got me to say, okay, well, I'll try it, because it's 8 episodes, but most episodes, they average 30 minutes in length. So it's easily binged. I got through it in a snap. But it's an autobiographical based on a true story. It's a combination Black comedy and a tragedy. It was created by and stars a Scottish comedian named Richard Gadd, who based this on his own play about his experiences of being stalked by this crazy woman and sexually assaulted in his early 20s.
Oh.
But it is superb, in addition to its riveting portrait of mental illness and how the one being stalked has some kind of connection, maybe possibly to the stalker. Its portrait of self-loathing is deeply powerful. The notion of us being ultimately responsible for our own well-being and personal welfare is blisteringly presented in this show. There's just a ton to unpack here when you watch it. And it's also about the power and the root healing force of being honest. A lot of times, people struggle with that, but this movie shows that, or this series shows that, if you can cross that bridge and really get to the nitty gritty and the truth of your life, doors open. Anyway, this is it's very sad. It's shocking. It's strangely poignant. It's brilliantly acted too. And for my money, it's the gold standard for creating compelling art out of personal experience. I don't want to say anything more about Baby Reindeer, because except to say that if you can, listeners and watchers of the after party, stop what you're doing and check this out. It's called Baby Reindeer. It's now streaming on Netflix, and you can write in and thank me later.
And you really loved it, even despite its kind of tough topic and subject matter.
Yeah, yes, I liked it because there's some humor in it too, but I kept watching it going, where are they going to take this? Where in the world is this going to go? And can it get any weirder? Apparently, everything you see in this drama is what this guy personally experienced. So, that gives it an added layer of, I don't know, what is it? Verisimilitude. What is that word?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, verisimilitude. Verisimilitude is the word. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, Yeah, it's
Well,
just
ding it, whatever it
yeah.
was. Yes.
Not yet. Now, the third episode it sags just a little bit, but it's and it's a longer episode, but I encourage people to stick with it because by the time it ends you're just gobsmacked in a really really good way, and this shows the power of film. The power
Yeah.
that what film can do and how it can transport you and take. And you watch this thing and you go, man, I thought I had problems. Oh man. Compared to some people, compared to a lot of other people, my problems are teeny tiny in the scheme of things.
Mm.
What some people go through, it just takes your breath away.
Let's recap it. Challengers hated it. You said it was
Hated it.
hated it.
Hated it. Yeah,
You
that's.
said it was horrible.
I thought it
And
was
you
awful.
thought it cheapened the characters. You
Oh,
thought
yuck.
that they were misrepresenting what they were trying to sell us here.
Really try. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
you weren't buying what they were selling.
No, I wasn't buying what they were selling.
Boy Kills World, you said it's violent, it's loud, it's crass, it's a little cheesy, kind of funny though. And if you like this kind of thing, you'll like it because you actually liked it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
usually and actually it's usually not my cup of tea. So yeah, yeah,
A surprise pick of the week. Hundreds of Beavers, this live action animation comedy. You said it's funny and creative and dazzling and fun. You
yeah,
liked it.
yeah. I did.
Yeah. How to explain your mental illness to Stanley Kubrick. You said of this movie that it's an essay film and very documentary like, and you liked it. You said it celebrates Kubrick's films and it makes you think about mental illness. And so, if you're a person that's a fan of Stanley Kubrick movies, you'll probably enjoy this, even though it's weird.
Yes, it's
Okay.
it's different. Yeah, yeah, and it's weird. It's weird. I should qualify that. It is weird, but it's weird in a really good way.
And Baby Reindeer, speaking of weird, you
Wow.
said
Yeah.
it's a weird but personal experience story, and you really love this series on Netflix, Baby Reindeer.
Yes. Very
Okay.
very well summarized there,
So there
Tim
we have it.
McAllister.
Tim
Yeah.
Sika, I love you for being on the After Party Live, and I always love your reviews. Thank you for
Oh, well,
coming
thank
on.
you. Oh,
It-
thank you for having me. I
yeah.
always love talking movies with you, Kim. I actually should let you get a word in edgewise
No,
sometimes.
no, it's
Yeah.
all about you. I want to hear what you have to say.
Oh,
People
okay.
hear me
All right.
enough, so this
Oh,
is
well,
good.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity in the forum. And I love being
Absolutely.
on the show. And we'll talk to you next week, right?
All right, sounds good.